Okay, this is a beautiful little study by Fernando Sor, number one of his Opus 31 studies, very important beginner studies for guitar. And if you're at the level where you're just beginning to play a guitar piece, this is about the perfect piece to fit at that level. And it has such a beautiful melody. When you think about it, da 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 da. You could sing it in the shower, and it could, it's a really an example of Fernando Sor's genius to be able to do a beautiful melody with such an easy piece, beginner piece to play. You only have about one bass note per measure. And then the bass does move right here. You have. So what I would recommend is to start with this melody and think of the phrasing. And a phrase would be, well, in this case, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 measures. With the pickup, it would be 8 measures. But you're think of the first phrase going to that D, and so I'm going to play the first phrase, and you want to think of how you would sing it. Like when that da 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 da, you want to rise in dynamics and come back, and then da 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 da, and think of the beauty of the melody. A melody is like a little baby. You want to cradle it. You don't want to drop it. That's not good to drop a baby. You want to cradle it and really pay attention to it, coddle it, and bring it out in your playing. Work on strong free strokes. I wouldn't recommend doing rest strokes on this piece. Just play the melody only. Think of that pickup, da-da, if you were singing, so you want to get a little louder on the downbeat, less on the pickup, da-da. You could plant both the index and A finger, and then play the index, and then really dig in with the A and slice, because you want a good tone. Sorry. Rise to this cadence. And when you get to that D, think of that as the melody sustaining through the G's that follow it. You don't want to go da 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 da. You don't want to hit those G's like, you don't want to sound like a high school marching band on this piece. You want to be sensitive, and those G's are filling in. They're kind of an anticipation, and you when you have that da 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 da, the last of those G's, the 5th G, is a pickup note, so that's melody. The other 4 G's before that are not melody, so downplay them. But anyway, you want to work on strong free strokes, learn to do dynamics. And then the next phrase, da-dum. If you're not sure what the melody is, look at with Fernando Sor, generally it's the stems up. The ones that have stems up are melody notes. Like at the end, you might think that's da 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 da, but it's really da 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 da, bum bum. Even though there's some other notes filling in, really try to hone in on what is melody and what isn't melody. Now, going back to the beginning, another thing that you want to pay attention to, and this is true of any two-part piece, I would call this basically a two-part piece. You've got melody with bass notes, and you want to just play the bass, even though it may seem kind of boring, you know, but the bass has a line to it, and it's not really a melody, but it's a support, but it does have kind of a line and a logic to it, and you should be able to sing the bass as well as you can sing the melody. So it'd be like this. Just let it ring through all those G's. And then the second phrase. Okay, so now you know that you could do that, or you could think of that G as bass note. I would think of that G as a bass note. I'm getting off on something, but now in the so anyway, and then you put it both together. Beautiful melody. It's like a lullaby almost, you know. Crescendo up to that cadence. Ba-da. Nice chromatic thing that soar does. Bum, bum. Now at this cadence, you're basically going a C chord, F, G, C. Want to kind of bang it out like you would bang out chords on a piano or something. You're going boom, boom, boom. Actually, you could think of that as a D minor. Yeah, it'd be like sort of a C, D minor. But in the cadence toward the end, it's an F to a G chord, like a. But D minor is related to F. It's the relative minor to F. But so anyway, I hope that gives you an idea of the first section. The second section is more chordal. It's like you've got a G7 chord, a C chord, a G7 with the F on the fourth string, a C chord. So it's a lot of G's and C's and G's. You know, so it's really just two different chords, and it's not as melodic. It's you want to think of da 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 da. It's kind of lilting. It's a lilting effect, and it's not as melodic, but it is kind of melodic. You don't want to think of the G on the second beat, the open G string, as part of the melody. You don't want to think da 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 da. Don't think of that open G as melody. That open G is accompaniment. It's filling in. So, and the melody is da 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 da, push da da, push a little bit to that cadence. And then da da. This is a lot like the second phrase at the top. Da, 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 da. Bang out the chords at the end. Dum, bum. Okay, so I'm going to play it and also get to know the bass. Dum, dum, bum. Dum. to the original. This is really good composition for soar. So that's the bass line with some of the accompaniment notes. So I'm going to play all of it together, and notice how I push to that middle, the end of the first phrase, right before it has the recap of the second phrase of the first section. So I'll push into that, and I usually accelerate a little bit. In this period of music, you don't do a lot of playing around with tempos, but here, you just can't help it. It's a bit emotional, and you want to accelerate, I think, a little bit there. So. Bang out the chords. So it's kind of at the end, he's going. And then taper off at the very end. You get loud toward the end. It's just sort of like, like a stock cadence. It's really, really appropriate there. But like I was saying, when you build up to that, hit that D, give that D a push so that it rings over top of the G's that follow. And don't play those G's, don't hit them with a hammer, hit them very soft. So you're going. I'll do it again. Push. End gracefully, bang out the chords, but then end with a softness. So I hope that helps you a little bit in thinking about this piece. Whatever you do, don't play these pieces like a dry exercise. Somebody who would play it kind of da 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 da, like monotone. Hit the G's too hard. Yeah, you don't want that. It's living, breathing music. This is a beautiful piece of music. It's a beginner piece, but soar, in this Opus 31, like the second one is much more challenging than this one, but in each one it has a totally different character. And besides learning to read music and play pieces, you're learning musical interpretation, and that's a very important thing. Hopefully your teacher is giving you some of that, and like 3 different guitarists might play a piece interpreted 3 different ways, and so it's kind of an individualist thing, but you want to be sensitive to that. Musical interpretation, where you're going to get loud, where you're going to emphasize a chord or de-emphasize, all those things. You need to give them some thought as you get to know the music. Make sure that your technique is serving the music and bringing out the beauty of the music that you're playing, of the piece that you're learning. And that's what music interpretation is all about. It's not just to be an individual and say, well, this is the way I do it. You want to try to understand what the composer was going for and make your music come alive. That's what it's all about. So have fun. Subscribe to my channel here if you enjoy this. If it helps you, let me know. John Hedger Guitar Studio, and also like my Facebook page, John Hedger Guitar Studio. I need better algorithms, right? We all do in this day and age. So have fun, practice hard. All right.